immigration operations, even as Democrats draw a red line on DHS funding. Democratic leadership put out a list of 10 demands backing a full-year spending bill for DHS. They include targeted enforcement and indiscriminate arrests, requirements for ICE agents to show their faces and display identification. Democrats also want certain locations like schools and churches to be off limits while demanding an end to racial profiling. The party also says they want DHS to uphold use of force policies, ensure state and local government coordination, and also safeguards around access to attorneys for detainees. They also are demanding that body cameras be worn by all federal agents, also to regulate and standardize their uniform in order to help better identify agents. Let's discuss these demands with Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California. Senator, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. Are Democrats willing to accept anything less than these 10 demands?
Look, Boris, thank you for having with me. And we have made our demands known, and now the ball's in the hands of the Republicans. And we're waiting to see what their response is going to be. The clock is ticking. In 8 days, we'll know loudly and clearly whether Republicans choose a partial government shutdown or to work with us to rein in an out-of-control ICE, CBP, and Department of Homeland Security overall. We're saying the whole country is seeing all this excessive use of force, violations of the law, the Constitution, and due process and civil rights on a daily basis, and it has to stop.
The lead Republican negotiator in the Senate, Senator Katie Britt of Alabama, says that she hasn't heard from any Democrats. Is that the case? Have you been in communication with her? Do you know if Leader Schumer has?
I find that very hard to believe because a lot of us know that she chairs the Appropriations Subcommittee in the Senate, is very involved with all these conversations and negotiations before last week's vote, and certainly going into next week's deadline. I've heard it from Leader Thune himself. I've spoken to her directly myself. So yes, Democrats are reaching out to her. Just check her profile in the New York Times most recently. But let's talk substance here. You know, the 10 demands, as you summarized in the introduction here, are not radical ideas. They are actually considered best practices and standard practices in law enforcement agencies around the country. State law enforcement, local law enforcement, nobody masks themselves with minimal exception. People do identify themselves. When there is excessive use of force and officer-involved shooting, there is typically an automatic, credible, independent investigation to determine whether any accountability or discipline is warranted. We don't have that under the Trump administration. We've said it before, we'll say it again. If all they were doing is strictly targeting and going after the convicted criminals, the violent felons that they talk so much about, there wouldn't be a debate. But that's not what's happening on the streets. And they also just have to recognize Donald Trump may be trying to change his tone of late, but we haven't seen any change in circumstances on the ground. Not in Minnesota and not other parts of the country that have been dealing with this since last June that may not be in the headlines today.
There's also been a lot of apprehension on behalf of Senate Republicans to take on these demands. Notably, Senator Lindsey Graham called the proposal ridiculous. Senator John Cornyn said this is a non-serious demand. There's also criticism of Senate leadership in the direction of Leader Schumer from progressive colleagues of yours in the House. One, for example, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez told Axios Schumer needs to get the hell out, that he continues to demonstrate to us that he can't meet the moment. I wonder how confident you are in Leader Schumer.
Look, right now, I think we need to keep the focus where it deserves to be. If Senate Republicans aren't seriously considering the demands, it's because they're not willing to take on Donald Trump. Right? This Trump administration has not just shown itself to be increasingly cruel, increasingly violent. They're shooting United States citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. Something has to change, and if Senate Republicans don't stand up to their oath of office, the Constitution, and their constituents, that's the bigger problem here.
So you're confident that Leader Schumer is going to get this deal done, that he will use leverage to get Republicans to bend to these demands?
Look, our demands are clear. It's not just Leader Schumer, it's also Leader Jeffries. United Democrats within the House and the Senate behind these asks. They're common sense. They're standard, proven practices for the sake of public safety of the general public and of law enforcement agents themselves. This is not a hard decision here.
Would you be willing to consider some voter ID measures that Republicans have proposed, like the SAVE Act, for example, in order to get these demands that you're seeking?
Look, you just exposed, it used to be that they weren't saying the quiet part out loud, and now they're shouting it. When Attorney General Bondi sends a letter to Governor Walz saying, sure, we'll pull all the ICE agents out of Minnesota if you hand over your voter list, your voter file, and all the personal information to voters in Minnesota, it tells you what they're really going after. And that happened around the time that Tulsi Gabbard is raiding an elections office in Georgia along with the FBI to confiscate ballots from 2020. The real agenda here is to exploit immigrants in their desire to rig the election this November and hold on to power. That's what it's about for Republicans, and we got to stand up for it. Stand up to it.
It sounds like you're not willing to negotiate on voter ID. Senator, I do want to ask you one. Go ahead.
Voter ID is a solution in search of a problem, because the truth is voter fraud in America is exceedingly rare. Study after study has demonstrated.
Senator, I'm very limited in time. There's one last question I want to ask you about your home state. There was an LA Times investigation released yesterday that found, according to two sources with knowledge of the mayor's office in LA, that Karen Bass directed changes to a report on the Palisades fire, allegedly in order to downplay failures by the city and LA Fire. The mayor is now accusing the Times of dangerously crafting a false narrative. She gave a statement to CNN, her office writing that Mayor Bass has been unequivocal for months. She reviewed an early draft of the report and only asked the LA Fire Department to make sure it was accurate on issues like weather and budget. She and her staff made no changes to the drafts. Senator, what is your reaction to this investigation, to the allegation, and then to the mayor's denial?
Yeah, look, I think my reaction is that we do need all the information as to how the fires happened and grew so quickly so that we can do the work that it takes to try to prevent it from happening again or to mitigate fires when they happen. But, credibility requires truth and accountability, whether it's in the city of Los Angeles or the White House.
Senator Alex Padilla, we have to leave the conversation there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Boris.
The Super Bowl is now just 3 days away, and CNN is catching up with the players for one final interview before the biggest sporting event of the year.
Renewal by Andersen presents Expert Installation.
Hey, Sam. What's going on?
Hey, Joe, we're getting our new replacement windows installed. We went with Renewal by Andersen. Their replacement windows are among the best in the industry.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Don. This is my neighbor, Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Don.
Providing our homeowners expert installation, that's our top priority. We never rush. Details like perfectly matching your window trim style matter to us. We always clean up thoroughly afterwards. Then, when the job is done, we walk you through a product demonstration and answer any questions you might have. And the one thing we always like to remind our homeowners is that when you go with Renewal by Andersen, installation is always included.
Installation is included? Heck, I paid a pretty penny for installation, and that was on top of the price of the windows themselves.
You can count on Renewal by Andersen to do the job right, on time, on budget. It's what you should expect from an industry leader.
Well, I've been watching your team install your windows, and I have to say they really know their stuff.
That's because our certified master installers are highly trained when it comes to installing your windows.
Impressive.
And they stand behind their product too, right, Don?
Because we sell, manufacture, and install Euroclaim windows, we absolutely stand behind both our product and our installation. Our industry-leading warranty is one of the best in the nation.
Before February 28th, save $400 on every window, save $850 on every patio door, and save $850 on every entry door. And our financing can help make this project more affordable with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. This offer ends February 28th. Call 1-800-501-1400.
Consumer Cellular, we only hire real humans right here in America.
I'm in America.
But can you help people find a wireless plan that's exactly right for them?
That's human work, at least at Consumer Cellular.
That's why we're ranked #1 in customer satisfaction.
I wish I was human.
Hey, don't worry.
Yeah, we don't know how to go beep, bop, boop.
Beep, bop, boop.
See? Look at you!
Yay!
Get the carrier ranked #1 in customer satisfaction and your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum.